Hey everyone, welcome back to the Monster series. If you missed part 0, we set up our development environment. Today, in part 1, we are diving into the basics, what web development is and how the web actually works. Whether you are a complete beginner or brushing up your skills, this is the perfect place to start. Okay, so let's talk about the first topic. What exactly is web development? So basically, if you are talking about the definition only, web development is all about building websites and web applications that you use every day. For example, if you are going to think about social media platforms or online stores or blogs and etc. For example, if I'm talking about the Amazon.com or Flipkart or you can say YouTube or Instagram, anything you can think of using on browser, that is known as web application or a website. Basically, there are two main sides of web development. First thing is front end. This is what users see and interact with: the layout, colors, buttons, and text. It's everything that happens in your browser. Let's take an example. Let's go on browser and search out Amazon. Let's go on the website. And here, can you see every single thing that you are looking at right now is the front end. As I said, front end is what users see and can interact with: the layout, colors, buttons, and text. For example, this right here is a front end of a form. Now the second part comes under backend. Backend is like behind the scenes part of a web application. It's where the data is stored, processed, and sent to the front end. That backend runs on the servers. Basically, what happens is, if I am talking about front end and backend, front end is what you can see, and backend is all where the processing is happening right now. For example, if I am going to back, these all right here, this right here, these images, or specifically the products. Let's go with both. If I'm talking about all these products, the data of all these products are stored in a database which comes under backend. Here, the server is just retrieving the data from that database and showing it to you using front end. In every web application, the front end and backend works simultaneously. In this series, we'll cover both using the MERN stack. The database that we are going to use in MERN stack is MongoDB, and the front end we are going to use is React, and we are going to make our backend with Node plus Express. We'll talk about this more in this part as well. So let's go on to the next section. The next section is, how does the web exactly work? Let's break down what happens when you type a website address into your browser and hit enter. As an example, I used Amazon.in. Let's take another example. Let's talk about example.com. Let's talk about example.com. You enter a URL like this, example.com. The browser sends a request to a server using HTTP protocol. So basically, what is HTTP protocols? What are different types of HTTP protocols? Right now, just think about it as you are sending a command to a server. That's all you need to think about right now. That means you are sending a command to a server to retrieve the data. The server receives the command or request, processes it, and sends back a response, usually HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. In our case, this right here is combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. If you want to look into further, you can just press Ctrl+Shift+I and go into inspect. Right here. This right here is inspect. If you want to inspect any element, you can just click on this button, and there you can see it consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The browser renders the page so you can see and interact with it. As an example, this example.com as well as Amazon.in. What we were doing, we were interacting with the data that was stored in the backend. If I'm talking about, let's filter it out, both and OnePlus. All the data that we are seeing right now, that is rendered on your server, the page is rendered, that you can see using Frontend. And the data we are taking is from backend or database. This process happens in milliseconds, but there is a lot going on under the hood, also known as backend. Let's go on the next session, that is two key concepts. The first key concept I'm gonna talk about is client. The client, this is your browser where you can view websites. Basically, right now, what I am using as a browser is Opera.gx. You can use any browser like normal Opera or Internet Explorer or just Chrome. Google Chrome is also a browser, or Brave. Any browser you can use. That will be your client. That client sends the request to the server to retrieve the data. The client sends the request to retrieve the data. Now, server. What exactly is server? This is a computer somewhere in the world that stores website files and handles requests. As I said right now, what exactly is a server? A server is just a computer somewhere in the world. We don't need that server to be right with us. It can be anywhere in the world. That store website files like HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Further on, if we will go, that will be React files as well. Those will be more React files, more JavaScript. These are the website files it is storing into the device. And whenever a request is coming to that server, then it will retrieve the data, retrieve those files and show it to the client who has requested those files. That means server is also handling the request. Next key concept we can say is HTTP. Basically, these are the protocols or the rules for how data is sent between your browser and the server. There are many HTTP protocols. For example, the most famous ones are get, post, put, delete. Basically, you can think of the CRUD operations using this HTTP protocols. CRUD means create, read, update, delete. These HTTP protocols are like get is read, put is update, post is create, and delete is obviously delete. So what exactly is the significance of those protocols right now? Right now we can only access the get protocol by using our browser. This right here, we can only access get method. But if we want to access or test out another methods, another protocols, then we are gonna use basically Postman or any other basically protocol defining applications. Next one is domain name. What exactly is domain? This right here, domain is the easy to remember address you can type in. For example, Amazon.in. For example, example.com. For example, Instagram.com. Everything you can see. If I'm talking about Google.com. This right here is a domain name. These domain names are what? These are made up of IP addresses. These domain names are made up of IP addresses. Now, what exactly is IP address? What exactly is an IP address? This unique address of a server on the internet. As I said, the server is just a computer sitting somewhere. What IP address is, it's the address of that particular server where we are sending our request, where the client is sending the request. For example, if you go anywhere, if you want to visit, let's say, YouTube. Your browser finds the server's IP address, sends a request, and gets back to the YouTube homepage. Here we have. What is this doing? Our browser finds out the server's IP address using the domain name. Using the domain name, it finds out the address of that particular device, that particular computer that is sitting somewhere. Then it sends the request to that particular YouTube computer or server, and your browser finds the server's IP address, sends a request, and gets back to the YouTube homepage. Here we have. What is this doing? Our browser finds out the server's IP address using the domain name. Using the domain name, it finds out the address of that particular device, that particular computer that is sitting somewhere. Then it sends the request to that particular computer or server and gets back to the YouTube homepage. It's the data, website files we were just talking about. I hope you are understanding all of this. Now let's talk about the next section, that is static versus dynamic websites. First of all, what are static websites? What are dynamic websites? Let's start with the static websites. These websites shows the same content to every user. Think of a basic portfolio or landing page. Right now, let's talk about example.com. This right here is a static website. This right here is a static website. Whether you are using it or someone else is using it, your friend or your relative or your parent, anyone is using this example.com, this will be the same website for each and every person. This right here is static website. For example, if you want to share your portfolio with someone, that means you can do that. If you are trying to share your portfolio, that portfolio will be the same portfolio for literally everyone, right? So that means it's a static website. Now let's talk about dynamic website. What are dynamic websites? As the name suggests, dynamic websites change content based on user input or data from a database. For example, if you are talking about social media feeds, online stores, or dashboards, all these are dynamic. For example, if I'm talking about Amazon.in, this right here is my dashboard, is my homepage. This is the data you are seeing right now will not be the same data or almost same data as you are seeing on your device. It will be a little different. Format will be the same, no doubt. Format will be the same. Same thing with YouTube. This right here, formatting of the website will be same. The only difference comes under the content, under the feed. Another example can be Instagram. You see, you and your friends' Instagram feed is very different. It's way different just because your interests are different. Your interests are way different than your friend. That means the content you are seeing right now, it's based on your user input. These type of websites are known as dynamic websites. With the help of Munstack, you will learn how to build both the types, but our focus will be on dynamic interactive web pages. So next section is the Munstack in context. Basically, what exactly is Munstack? If I'm talking about Munstack, let's focus on full stack development first of all. Let's talk about full stack development. We talked about front-end development, we talked about back-end development, and now if you combine both of those, front-end as well as back-end, that means we have a full stack development. Full stack development has many types. It has many kinds. Full stack development can be in Java, in JavaScript, Python, etc. One of the most used, you can say, or most popular JavaScript Munstack, basically one of the most popular popular types of full stack development, if I am talking about in JavaScript, that is Munster. So basically, what full stack development is doing, every full stack development has front end and back end. It's all the matters of how the technologies are fitting in. First of all, let's talk about front end. In front end, in Munstack, we are gonna use the technology React. React is going to be the technology, basically, what the user is looking at or interacting with. We are gonna build our front end with React. First of all, we are gonna just use, specifically for front end, we're just gonna use HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But in Munstack, whenever you are doing advanced full stack development, at the end you are gonna see how to use React as well. Secondly, to handle the backend processing request and serving data, we are gonna use Node and Express. We are gonna use Node.js and Express to handle the backend processing request. And lastly, but not least, MongoDB. The database we are gonna use is MongoDB. At the end of the series, you will know how these pieces work together to power modern web applications. So, the last section will be what's next exactly. In the next part, we'll get hands-on with HTML, the building blocks of every web page. As you saw here, in example domain, Ctrl+Shift+I, sources, this right here. This right here is HTML. In the next part, we will get hands-on experience with HTML, the building blocks of every web page. What's your task? Your task is to think about your favorite website. What is your favorite website? It can be YouTube, it can be Instagram, TikTok, anything. Is it static or dynamic? Try searching for its IP address using a tool like ping in your terminal. What is ping? Search about it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you cannot miss the next part. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in part 2.